Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and you might remember this switch from about a week ago. This is the Nintendo Switch that docks but doesn't display because there was a damaged ribbon cable connector on the motherboard. So the LCD connector on the main board was faulty. Now I spoke to the owner of this, his name is Paul, and he said, Vince, go ahead, give it a go. Why don't you get yourself some connectors and then try it out? So that's exactly what I've done. I've bought myself 3 of these little tiny connectors just to show you how small they are. Let's hold up to the camera there, look at my fingers and look at the pins there. We're talking really, really small. So I don't know how many pins there are, probably going to be about 40 or 50 of them. Yeah, so why don't I give it a go? Worst case scenario is I'll break the switch. Hopefully that won't happen. What will realistically happen is I will fail to do the connector, and then I will just remove that failed connector and it will still work as a dock switch, and Paul's absolutely fine with that. So I think it's worth the risk. So I'm going to be taking this apart. I'm going to take off the connector that's there at the moment, a damaged one with hot air and flux. Then I'm going to take off the lead-free solder, and then I'm going to put leaded solder on there, and that will lower the temperature. And then I'm going to place this on here, and I'm just going to try to get my soldering iron, and I'm just going to try to just tap the pins and see what will happen. I've got a microscope. I haven't done any soldering underneath it before, but I'm going to be giving that a go. I'm going to be setting up the camera at an angle and zooming in, so you're not going to see it as zoomed in as what I'm going to be looking at, but it will still be pretty close up, and you'll see how hard it's going to be. Do I think I'm going to be able to do it? I'm looking forward to giving it a go. About 20% of me is hopeful, but realistically, no, I don't think I am going to be able to do this. So I'm going to give it a go with the soldering iron to begin with. If that doesn't work, then I might try solder paste. I've been given plenty of comments and stuff on the previous video about ways to do it. So why not? Let's give it a go. You never know, I might be lucky. So let's get this stripped down and the board out. I'm just going to mask off with Kapton tape these plastic connectors here because they're very, very, very close to this one here. Right, okay, I've got some Kapton tape around those ones there, quite a bit of it I've just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. The problem with Kapton tape is sometimes the flux can get underneath it, and then the heat goes underneath it once it starts to lift, and then you end up having more melting than if you didn't use it at all. Because these are so close, I am worried about it. So I'm going to give it a go. So now, I was thinking earlier that there's not much risk, but thinking about it now, because of these connectors here, there's quite a bit of risk, isn't there? Because if I muck up that fan or the power connector, then that's going to cause a lot of bother. So let's zoom right in, and we're going to add some flux. Right, so I'm just going to put flux down either side of the contacts. Right, I'm just going to see what's the other side of this. Okay, actually the other side's not too bad. If you have a look, it's just mainly like resistors and capacitors here. That's not actually, it's not too bad. Maybe the best way would be to do it from underneath then. Right, okay, let's give this a go. Right, I've got my air set to 400 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to put my airflow all the way up to 8, so everything's on max. You can see how it burns up, the white thing. And the plastic's all soft now without the solder melting yet. Let's come in. Excellent, okay. Right, that came off pretty good, but you could see now how you can't just apply air directly to it, because look, it's completely and utterly singed. Right, don't worry about that grey stuff, that's just a bit of thermal paste. Right, so now I'm going to put a bigger tip on my soldering iron, and I'm going to remove all that old leaded solder. I'm going to add some flux again. Right, I've got my iron set to 400 degrees Celsius, and I've got some braid here to try to get the old solder up. And I'm just going to go in line. In line with the pads. Just going to clean that now with a bit of IPA, see what it looks like. Okay, so that's it. I'm happy with that at the moment. So now what I have to do is get some leaded solder and put it on there. I think I'm going to keep the big tip on my soldering iron for the moment, because I'm just putting leaded, just putting the solder on, and hopefully it will want to stick to the pads rather than anything else. But I'm not going to use any flux just for this bit. Tin then. It kind of went okay. I tell you what, it's weird. Like, I've been thinking about this for days now, waiting for the parts to arrive, and I was thinking, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to be able to do it. But then when you see how small it is, I mean, look at my finger. Do you know what I mean? And there's how many pins are on that? I think it says on here. I think it says on the screen. Look at that, 53 pins. So, and as well as that, I don't actually know if this ribbon cable here is going to be okay or not, because remember, the connector was damaged, but I'm hoping the screen is okay. So there's 53 contacts that I have to solder here. Yeah. Okay, well, what I need to do is let my soldering iron cool and get myself more comfortable, and get the small tip on. Now I'm going to be doing this through the microscope, so I now need to set up the camera so you can see what's going on. Okay, I'm near enough ready to go. I just want to quickly test around this chip here, because Paul thought that this chip was faulty because there was a shorted capacitor. But now that I've removed the ribbon cable, I'll never actually check these. So I've got it on continuity. Beforehand, this capacitor over this side was shorting. Actually, do you know what? It's not good. I've got the shakes today. No, they're all fine. Just going to check up here. Yeah, all looks good. Right, let's try to get this connector on. Now, the reason I think I've got the shakes is because I feel really apprehensive about doing this. So let's put this on macro. Okay, so it's going to be this one up here that I'm dealing with. So let's get the connector on. And let's see if I can just tap a few of them. So it's got to go this way around. Oh, for God's sake. They've sent me the wrong ones. Oh, so annoying. Oh. Do you know what? I ordered from this company and they sent me through 3 USB-C ports, and I said, you know, I need this urgently, please send the correct items. Oh, not a problem, send them back to us. Okay, that's irritating. And then reorder the ones again. So I reordered the ones again, so I spent like £18 with the company now. And they've sent through the wrong connectors again. So basically the ones they're sending through here is... I haven't got a clue. What are they sending through? This doesn't fit either of them. Doesn't fit this one either. Oh, unbelievable. Right, okay. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do with this video at the moment until I get the correct part through. It's so annoying because I'm all set up for this. Right, okay. I'll have to order off a different company. Catch you later in the week. So it's the next day now, and I've ordered up some connectors from a different company, slightly more expensive, but at least they delivered the correct ones. So I've got myself set up now. You can see the microscope is here. I've got my hot air station here and the soldering station. So I'm going to zoom right in and let's see if we can get this connector on. Right, okay, so you can see the connector, well, the pads here, and the connector's just down here. I'm going to place it on in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some liquid flux on here, because I don't want to use my normal flux because it's a bit thick and I think it might sort of gum everything up underneath the connector. So now, do you know what, looking at it under the microscope with the connector on looks so much harder. But what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm just going to do the end pins if I can, because there's like two bigger pins just at the very end here and here. It's so hard to see, but if I can do them, then at least the connector might be in the right spot. Right, they're on the pads, they're not perfectly in the middle because I can't actually get it perfectly in the middle because I think this side here on the left hand side, the solder must be a little bit big on it. Right, I'm just going to apply a little bit of heat on the side here and see what happens. Right, I couldn't really get the ones at the edge, so I'm just going to go along and I'm just going to try to solder up a few of them, a few of the actual pins. The problem I've got is because there's only a fraction of a millimetre off the connector sticking out, I'm actually melting the plastic as well at the same time. So I don't know if that's going to affect pushing the ribbon cable in. The reason I'm using a slightly bigger tip is because I think the small tip might not generate enough heat into the board. This is like a flat tip, or it's got a flat bit on it. I don't know the proper name for it. Is it called a chisel? I'm not sure. And I've got my iron set to 470 degrees C because, again, when I touch the board, especially on the ground ones, the solder just goes mushy because the iron can't generate enough heat. Well, I'm just going to try and add a bit of solder now to where I was just using the solder off the pads, but not all of them look stuck. So I'm just going to try and add a little bit of solder. This is probably where it's going to get a bit messy. Right, okay, that's that side done, I think, but I won't know until I clean it up. And also I need to put it at an angle to get a proper look through the microscope because I'm looking directly down on it. So now I'm going to do the other side
and we'll see how it goes, and we can always clean it up and then go over it all again at the end. Right, these back ones are harder than I thought. I thought they would be slightly easier, but they're a lot of them are not sticking. I think my connector is riding ever so slightly high. Right, I don't really know how that went at all at the moment, even though I'm looking through the microscope. So I'm going to clean it with IPA, and then hopefully that will get rid of some of the burnt flux and the burning plastic, and then I can see what it looks like. Right, okay, so you can see the connector, well, the pad. Right, okay, on the, it's not actually too bad. On the front part there's about 4 pins that are not stuck. On the back I think there's only 2. And if I go across with my meter, for example, between the actual pins at the top and the pad, not the pins, then you can actually hear that it is shorting out when I go on those ones. I haven't done the front ones yet. I think it's this one here that's not doing it. Yeah, there we go. So it does it when I go onto the pin, but not the pad. So in theory, if that works okay, it should be alright. I've had a look at the other side. There's a slight bit of burning to the actual connector, because every time you do a slight little twitch on the soldering iron, it only has to tap the plastic to completely melt it. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to touch up both sides again. It's kind of pointless me filming it, because I'm only going to be going over 2 at the back and 4 at the front, and then I'll try to get you a close-up shot at the end. Actually, do you know what? I will film it because I can fast forward it through it anyway. So what I've done is, can you see I've put it up at an angle now because my microscope's vertically down on it. I can tilt it, but then it means it's awkward for me to sit and kind of look. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing now, and it gives me more access to actually see the pins rather than just a kind of bird's eye view down. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I know you can't see the actual pins, but you'll still get an idea. Also, I've changed my tip now on my soldering iron to the smallest, pointiest one I have. So I've gone away from the flat one, and I'm using this one now. No, this tip's not working at all. All it's doing is not melting the solder properly, turning it into a ball, and now I've bridged 2 pins. So unfortunately I have to go back to the other tip. There's not enough surface area on that tip to get the heat into the board. Not with my weak soldering iron anyway. If you had a good one, I'm sure it would be fine. So annoyingly, I am going to have to go back to the bigger tip, which is this one here. It is a flat bit at the end. Oh, so I've got a different tip now. Let's try this again. Right, okay, I'm going to clean this side up with IPA and then zoom right in and show you. Right, so here we have it. Let's get the light right on it so you can see. There we go. Now, I know they're all a little bit crooked. You can see everything is a fraction of a millimetre off to the left, so this whole connector needed to move a little bit this way to the right. But at this moment in time, every single one of those things are actually connected, and there doesn't appear to be any shorts. A tiny little bit of solder stuck to this, but it's not connecting to the other pins. A few other bits look a little bit damaged, where the kind of soldering iron, you know, twitched and went up here, or my hand twitched. But I know it looks messy when you compare it to something like this here. But saying that, I think that that side is okay. So now let me do the other side. I'm just going to see if I can get a shot through you through the actual microscope. I haven't actually set this microscope up yet for the camera. Right, apologies for the shaky hand. So what looks good with the other camera looks pretty bad when you look through the microscope, but still look, every single one of them is actually connected. Yeah, you can see the pins coming down. So you can see there that the see that pin there, that looks good, but the one next to it, can you see I've melted the black plastic, and that one. But remember, we are looking through a microscope now. Look at them, you see they're all connected, aren't they? I know it's not great, but still. Right, so now let's do the other side. I'm going to try lowering my soldering iron down to 400 just to see if it makes it easier rather than burning all the flux straight away. So that's 400 degrees Celsius. Okay, that is also done. So now I'm going to clean it with IPA and then I'm going to show you it close up. So here's the connector here. Now when you're looking at it with your eyes, it looks pretty good. And also when you zoom in using the macro feature of my camcorder, it looks pretty good. But when I show you on the microphone, you'll see what a mess it actually is. But I think if I did it again, what I would do is I would rest my soldering iron here and I would just tap, tap, tap. See what I was doing, I was trying to come from the top and drag down, but every time a soldering iron tapped here, it would melt a little bit more plastic. So I don't actually think it's going to affect it. I think that if the screen and stuff is okay and if the rest of the board is okay, I think this connector is actually connected, but obviously we're soon going to find out. So by resting it here and just tapping it, you would then not have the shakes. I mean, even with this you can see I'm shaking. And you would just tap the pin, tap the pin, tap the pin without touching the plastic. Because as soon as that soldering iron touches the plastic, it melts so quickly. So anyway, let me show you with the actual microscope and you can see what it's really like. Right, you ready for the horror show? So there you go, you can see the gold pins. Forget about the other ones in the middle, they're just to connect the ribbon cable, so they're just resting on the black plastic. Look, there's that one there, that one there. You can see they're all just about hanging on. And again, can you see they're not in the middle of the pads, they're all to the right hand side of the pads. Now it gets worse, believe it or not, as we go along. Now where was it? One of these was really hard to do. I think it was this one and I ended up completely covering it in solder. Got a nice little one hanging out there, but that's fine, it's still connected. And can you see now this is very badly burnt? But remember, this is absolutely tiny. The ribbon cable is going to be going over that anyway. That one, you can barely see the pins because of the melted plastic. And the ground one at the very end, I couldn't get a contact on at all. But I'm thinking the ground is just going to be there to give strength to the connector, because there's going to be other grounds along here that is connected, and it actually feels quite strong when I move it. It's not kind of flopping around the place, and the lid still works. So let's get this back together now and see what happens. Well, I'm just testing it with my multimeter, and I don't know, I'm not sure. I mean, the bottom ones here are definitely coming up fine on these smaller pins, so these should be coming up on the big ones, but I don't really know. Look, do you know what, let's give it a go. Because these probes are tiny, but they're still bigger than these ones here. And also, I've put away the microscope now. So I also need to put some thermal paste back on this as well. Right, okay, I have to try and get this screen in now. Imagine if I muck it up on the way in. I mean, it is possible because I might have changed the tolerances a little bit by melting it. Excellent. Good. That went in perfectly. Okay, and it closes down. Felt a little bit stiff when closing, but hopefully that will be alright. Right, okay, I haven't got any thermal paste on, I haven't got the heat pipe on, but I'm going to just try it now and see what happens. So, let's plug it in. Whew. Right, here we go. See if anything happens. Yes! Woohoo! Brilliant! Oh my god. Look at that! That feels so good. Oh my god. Do we still have sound? We do. Wow. 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 Right, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to put some thermal paste on and put it back together. Do you know, I was hopeful. I was hopeful when I seen that, when I seen the connector with all the solder pins, but you never really know, do you? I was only 40% confident even after seeing that. Oh my god, I'm so happy. Right, okay, let's actually let's turn it down, turn it off properly. Wow, right, oh god, I'm actually out of breath. Let's put some thermal paste on this. Right, okay, so that's the thermal paste on there. I haven't got a huge amount left, so I'm going to just leave this one on this bit here. This bit I don't think is as important, but Paul can always put the thermal paste on himself anyway. Actually, do you know what I'm going to do? Just to doubly make sure, I'm going to pop the battery out. I'm just going to check for shorts around that capacitor now that the screen is in place. Right, that's interesting. So when I go across the normal one here with my meter, you can see that they're only shorting on one side. Yeah. But now look, when I go onto this one that Paul suspected was faulty before, watch this now. Yeah, so that's only one side, but... okay. Right, they are only one side, but to begin with it was shorted on both sides. Maybe they had a bit of charge in them. No, they're absolutely fine. But strange thing is, before I tested the ones here, they were shortened on both sides. So maybe if you kill the power to it, maybe it takes like, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, or maybe it takes you going across other capacitors to fully drain it down. I don't know, not sure. Anyway, that's back together on the inside. Now this is still missing a lot of screws, but again, Paul can sort that out himself. Right, okay, let's get some Joy-Cons and let's change the camera angle and also see if it docks. Okay, let's turn it on again and we'll pop the Joy-Cons in, make sure a game's working. Oh, look at that. Now I hope it stays connected. I'm going to do something silly now, but I'm actually going to give it a shake to see if it stops working. Also, look at the battery. So the battery stayed charged up all week long. I don't want to go crazy, but you look, yes. Do you know what? I'm hoping, I hope that will be a lasting repair. Yeah. There we go. Let's pop the game in. Excellent, that's still working. There you go, that looks absolutely perfect. That screen, let's have a look. I can't see anything wrong with that screen. I'd love to know what happened to this switch to begin with. I think that it might have been water damaged. Or, like Paul said, maybe the USB-C port was changed. I didn't actually have a look at the solder connector. And then I think in putting back the screen, because it is a nightmare, and I have ruined a couple of switches, I think, doing that, putting that ribbon cable back in, then I think they fixed that, but then they mucked up the screen, because they must have bent the pins. Right, let's see if it's going to work in dock mode. It should do, because it was working the other day. Excellent. That battery's flat. There you go. What a result. I'm so happy with that. And there you go, straight back on here again. So, that there, I likened it to when I first of all changed my first chip and it worked on the Xbox One S that I did. That feeling of just excitement when something works. Now, this Switch isn't for me. This isn't for my son or daughter or a family friend. I haven't actually met Paul, but yet I'm still over the moon that it's working. And that, obviously, I'm pleased for Paul that it's working, but I'm pleased for myself just for the pure enjoyment of fixing something. It doesn't matter what it is. You get a real kick out of it. Honestly, I have got... I'm on a high right now. I'm slightly shaking because of this. So yeah, if you're scared to try and fix something, as long as you do something that's safe. So for example, you know, I'm not messing around with mains electricity in here. This is just battery powered. And if something's broken, have you got anything to lose really by trying to fix it? And you probably will break it further, but you will learn a little bit in the process. And then after you've broken 3 or 4 things, you will then hopefully start to have 1 or 2 successes, and that will kind of propel you on to do more and more things. I didn't dream that a couple of years ago I'd be able to solder on that connector. Now I know others will look at it and say you did an awful job, and that's fair enough. I will probably look back at this, hopefully, in 2 or 3 years and say, wow, I was really bad. But right now I'm amazed, and the thing is, it's working. So whether it's a good or bad, whether it looks good or bad, at this moment in time it's working. I hope, fingers crossed, it will stay working. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more trying to fix videos. Take care, bye now.